Have you ever met someone who seems impossible to break? Someone who stays calm when everyone else panics? Someone who never asks for help, and yet always finds a way to win? If that person is a Capricorn, you're not imagining it. Capricorns are different. But not in the way you think. Behind that strong, serious face, there's a deep story. One that's written in fear, control, and quiet battles. Because what looks like coldness is actually protection. What seems like distance is survival. Here's a shocking truth. Most Capricorns don't build walls around their hearts to keep people out. They build them to keep themselves safe. Today, we're going deep into the mind of the Capricorn. Not the surface-level zodiac facts you've heard before. We'll explore the hidden reasons why they lead, why they fight alone, and why control means everything to them. This is not just a video about astrology. It's about human behavior. About understanding why some people choose silence over tears and control over chaos. If you've ever loved a Capricorn, or been one, this video is for you. So, get comfortable. And if you find this journey meaningful, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps me create more content like this. Now, let's begin. Have you ever looked at a Capricorn and wondered what's really happening behind those quiet eyes? Why do they seem so distant, yet so steady? Why do they carry themselves like they're always in control, yet somehow, it feels like they're protecting something fragile inside? The answer lies deeper than you think. Capricorns aren't cold. They're cautious. From a young age, many of them learn that emotions can be dangerous. Showing too much, trusting too easily, depending on the wrong person, it can all lead to disappointment. Or worse, betrayal. And so, without even realizing it, they build walls. Not walls to keep others away, but walls to keep themselves safe. Imagine a child who learned that vulnerability equals pain. That child grows into an adult who controls everything they can, including their own heart. That's why Capricorns seem so disciplined. Why they stick to routines and plans when others give up. It's not just about success or achievement. It's about creating a world they can predict. A world where they can feel safe. Every goal they set, every step they take, every rule they follow. It's not obsession. It's survival. Their discipline isn't a prison. It's their armor. And inside, there's a heart that's been hurt more times than you think. Perfectionism is another mask they wear. Not to show off, but to protect themselves from chaos. When life feels unpredictable, Capricorns focus on what they can control, themselves. Their work. Their standards. They set the bar high. Not to impress others, but to avoid the fear of failure. Because failure, for a Capricorn, isn't just about losing. It's about confirming the voice inside them that whispers, "You're not enough." Think about someone you know who works late into the night. Who plans every step carefully. Who rarely opens up, yet silently carries the burdens of everyone around them. That's a Capricorn. And behind their silence, there's often exhaustion. But they'll never say it. Because to them, asking for help means giving up control. And control is their greatest form of safety. Their independence isn't pride. It's protection. Depending on others feels like giving someone else the power to hurt them. So, they choose to rely on themselves. It's not that they don't want support. It's that they fear the pain that sometimes comes attached to it. So, when a Capricorn says, "I'll handle it," they're not just being strong. They're shielding themselves from the risk of being let down. And that habit becomes their identity. But what does this mean for those who love them? If you're close to a Capricorn, understand this: their walls aren't about keeping you out. They're about keeping themselves whole. They're not trying to push you away. They're trying to avoid repeating past pain. The best thing you can do is to be patient. Show up. Be consistent. And when they finally let you in, respect that trust like it's the most precious gift. Because it is. Their calmness under pressure is another misunderstood trait. People often say, Capricorns don't feel. But that couldn't be further from the truth. They feel deeply. But emotions, for them, are like waves that can drown. So instead of reacting, they pause. They think. They process. They control the wave before it crashes. And while others may explode in anger or tears, Capricorns choose silence. Not because they're cold, but because silence feels safer than regret. Maybe you've seen it before. In a crisis, everyone panics. Everyone talks. Everyone reacts. Except the Capricorn in the room. They stand still. Calm. Detached. But inside, their mind is racing. Calculating. Protecting. They've learned that reacting emotionally can lead to mistakes, and mistakes feel too dangerous to risk. So, they stay still. They stay silent. Until they know exactly what to say, or what to do. If you've ever been confused by a Capricorn's distance, remember this: they're not ignoring you. They're protecting themselves. Not from you, but from their own fear of being hurt. It's not easy to live like that. Constantly guarding your heart. Constantly staying strong for everyone else. But for Capricorns, it's the only way they know how to survive. So, what can you take from all of this? If you are a Capricorn, maybe this explains why you've always felt the need to handle life alone. Maybe now, you can start to ask yourself, what would happen if you let someone help? And if you love a Capricorn, be the person who waits. Be the person who doesn't push, but stays present. They'll notice. Even if they don't say it. Understanding a Capricorn means seeing the human behind the armor. And sometimes, the strongest hearts are the ones protecting the most pain. There's something else about Capricorns that few people truly understand. They don't just work hard or think logically because they enjoy it. They do it because deep inside, they believe that trust is dangerous unless it's proven over time. Trust, for them, isn't a feeling. It's a process. It's earned, like a slow-growing tree. Every action you take. Every promise you keep. That's how a Capricorn measures whether you're safe for their heart. And if you break that trust, they won't scream. They won't beg. They'll simply step back. Quietly. Permanently. Because in their world, broken trust isn't something you fix with words. It's something that tells them to close another door. This is why their boundaries feel so strong. But what most people don't realize is that those boundaries are more than personal rules. They're emotional shields. Think about it. A Capricorn doesn't set boundaries to push you away. They set them to protect the small space where they can feel safe, calm, and in control. Maybe you've experienced it. You tried to get closer to a Capricorn. You tried to help. But suddenly, you hit a wall. They say no. Or worse, they say nothing. And you're left confused. Hurt. Wondering what you did wrong. The truth is, you crossed a line they never explained out loud. Because, for Capricorns, explaining their needs feels risky. They expect you to learn their limits not through their words, but through their silence. Now, here's the question: what happens when you respect those boundaries? Something beautiful. Slowly, without realizing, a Capricorn starts to trust you. Not because you forced your way in, but because you waited patiently at the gate. And that means everything to them. But this emotional architecture doesn't stop there. Capricorns possess patience that feels almost unshakable. In a world where everyone wants results now, they're the ones willing to wait. Think of someone you know who doesn't panic when things go wrong. Someone who keeps moving forward. even when success seems far away. That's the Capricorn's strength. Their patience isn't passive. It's powerful. And yet, that patience was often learned through hardship. Imagine being the person who always had to solve problems alone. Who learned, from life, that rushing brings pain, and emotions bring mistakes. Over time, waiting, thinking, observing, became their way of surviving. That's why they don't respond quickly to pressure. Emotional blackmail doesn't work on them. Guilt trips fall flat. Urgency makes them pause, not react. And to outsiders, that makes them seem cold, unreachable. But in reality, it's their method of control. Because Capricorns know something others don't. That real power comes from holding steady when the world around you collapses. That's why you rarely see them argue in public. That's why they don't react when provoked. It's not that they don't care. It's that they've mastered the art of silence as self-defense. And inside that silence, they are planning their next move. This connects deeply to another hidden force, their perseverance. You see, many people chase success when it feels easy. But Capricorns? They keep going when it's hard. When they fail, they don't quit. When they fall, they don't cry for help. They get up. Quietly. Again and again. To them, obstacles aren't reasons to stop. They're just part of the road. I want you to imagine someone climbing a mountain alone. The wind is strong. The path is steep. Everyone else turned back long ago. But the Capricorn? They're still climbing. Because in their mind, giving up isn't an option. Not because they're trying to prove something to others, but because they're proving something to themselves. And that's why Capricorns are so hard to control. They don't move when you push. They don't break when you threaten. They've spent years learning how to survive without shortcuts. How to endure without praise. And that quiet strength makes them unstoppable. But what's the cost? Loneliness. Exhaustion. A lifetime of believing that struggle equals strength. So if you're a Capricorn listening right now, ask yourself, when was the last time you allowed yourself to rest? When was the last time you let someone help you carry the weight? You've been strong for so long, but strength isn't the same as healing. If you love a Capricorn, let them know it's safe to lean on you. And if they don't, love them anyway. Respect their silence. Their distance. It's not rejection. It's fear. And over time, if you stay, they'll see you as safe ground in a world that has rarely offered them any. All of this is rooted in their deep sense of responsibility. Capricorns don't act impulsively. They don't take decisions lightly. Why? Because in their minds, every choice carries weight. Every action matters. From their work to their personal life, they feel the pressure of responsibility every single day. Think of the Capricorn as the person who always does what needs to be done, even when no one is watching. They're not looking for applause. They're not chasing validation. Their actions come from their own inner rules. Their own silent code of honor. If they say they'll do something, they'll do it. Even if it's hard. Even if no one understands. Even if it costs them. Because for a Capricorn, integrity isn't a choice. It's who they are. And that makes them resistant to control. You can't manipulate someone who doesn't seek your approval. You can't pressure someone who measures success by their own standards. But here's the twist. This deep responsibility also means they carry invisible burdens. The constant weight of making the right choice. Of never failing those who depend on them. And often, no one sees that weight. They don't complain. They don't explain. They just carry it. So next time you see a Capricorn standing alone, remember, they're not just strong. They're silently holding the world together, one careful step at a time. And as we move forward in this journey, stay with me, because the next insights will take us even deeper. The final 3 truths about Capricorn may reveal the most controversial and the most vulnerable secrets of all. There's something about honesty that Capricorns hold closer than anything else. For them, honesty is not just a value. It's a survival tool. Life taught them early that lies create instability. That manipulation leaves scars. So over time, they decided that truth, even when it's uncomfortable, is safer than illusion. A Capricorn won't lie to protect your feelings. Not because they're cruel, but because they believe that clarity is kindness. Even if it hurts, it's better than being misled. But it goes deeper than that. They value transparency not just from others, but from themselves. They check their own motives. They question their own intentions. And when they give you their trust, it's because they've analyzed every reason why you might betray it, and still chose to open the door. That's why they're so cautious with relationships. They need to feel the truth of your actions, not just hear your words. Now, you might think this makes them distant or harsh. But in reality, it's their way of staying safe in a world where hidden motives scare them more than loneliness. Because, to a Capricorn, dishonesty is a threat to their emotional security. And they guard that security like their life depends on it. Their emotional self-control is part of the same story. Have you ever argued with a Capricorn, only to realize later they never raised their voice? They didn't explode. They didn't react in anger. Instead, they stayed silent. Calm. Observing. And maybe that silence frustrated you. Maybe it felt like they didn't care. But the truth is, they care too much. They just don't trust their emotions enough to let them lead the conversation. You see, many Capricorns learned that emotional reactions make you vulnerable. That if you let your feelings take over, you lose control. And losing control, for them, feels like standing on quicksand. So instead, they process in silence. They protect their inner world by building walls around their emotions, choosing thought over feeling, reason over reaction. This doesn't mean they're emotionless. Quite the opposite. Their emotional depth is often greater than most people realize. But expressing those emotions openly? That feels unsafe. So they control. They calculate. They respond when ready. Not when provoked. And in that waiting, they find their power. If you're close to a Capricorn, remember this: when they go quiet, they're not ignoring you. They're protecting themselves from saying something they'll regret. They're sorting their feelings like pieces of a puzzle, trying to make sense of what hurts, what matters, and what's worth saying. So, be patient. Respect the silence. It's not rejection. It's protection. And for Capricorns listening right now, understand that controlling your emotions doesn't mean denying them. It's okay to feel. It's okay to be vulnerable. Letting someone see your heart doesn't mean you're weak. Sometimes, the greatest strength is found in allowing yourself to be human. Now, this brings us to something even deeper: the Capricorn's sense of duty. It's not something they switch on and off. It's a constant presence in their lives. They wake up thinking about their responsibilities. They fall asleep worrying about what still needs to be done. Their personal code, their silent inner voice, guides every choice they make. This sense of duty isn't about people-pleasing. It's not about gaining approval. It's about honoring a promise they made to themselves, to always do what's right, no matter how hard it is. That's why Capricorns seem so steady, so reliable. Because they've tied their identity to consistency, to being the person others can depend on. But here's the hidden struggle. That constant responsibility can become a heavy burden. They rarely ask for help. They rarely admit when they're overwhelmed. They just keep going. Because to them, letting others down feels like failing themselves. And failure, as you know by now, is something Capricorns avoid at all costs. Maybe you've seen it. A Capricorn pushing through exhaustion. Showing up even when they're broken inside. Carrying responsibilities that no one else even notices. That's not pride. That's duty. A silent promise they refuse to break. And finally, one of the most misunderstood traits, Capricorns dislike depending on others. Not because they think they're better than anyone else, but because depending on others feels risky. It means giving up control. It means opening themselves to disappointment. So they choose to handle life alone, not because they want isolation, but because self-reliance feels safer than the alternative. Every time a Capricorn says, "I can do it myself," remember, that's not stubbornness. That's fear, disguised as strength. And while that independence makes them powerful, it also makes them lonely. Because even the strongest soul needs rest. Even the most disciplined heart needs connection. So, if you are a Capricorn, ask yourself, when was the last time you let someone help you? When was the last time you trusted someone enough to share the weight? It's not weakness to lean on others. It's wisdom. And for those who love a Capricorn, don't push them to open up. Just be there. Be consistent. Be honest. In time, your quiet presence will matter more than you can imagine. Understanding these layers is like peeling back stone to find a heart still beating underneath. A heart that has loved in silence, fought in silence, and healed in silence. But as deep as all this feels, the journey isn't over yet. Because in the next part of this video, we'll explore the final 3 truths. And trust me, they're the most revealing, the most vulnerable, and possibly the most controversial insights about Capricorn that you'll ever hear. Stay with me. You won't want to miss this. There's something about Capricorns that many people misunderstand. It's their relationship with change. From the outside, they seem resistant. Stubborn, even. You offer new ideas, new paths, and they hesitate. They pause. They say they need to think. And people mistake that for fear. But it's not fear. It's protection. Change, to a Capricorn, isn't exciting. It's risky. Because change means letting go of control. And control is their emotional safety net. Imagine someone who has carefully built their world brick by brick. Every habit, every plan, every boundary is like a wall holding back chaos. Then, suddenly, someone suggests tearing down that wall for something new. That's not opportunity to a Capricorn. That's danger. So, they resist. Not because they hate growth, but because they need time. They need to study the change, evaluate it, and decide on their terms. Only then will they accept it. Not a moment before. And that's something worth remembering, especially if you work with or love a Capricorn. Don't push them. Don't rush them. Let them process. Let them find stability inside the uncertainty. When they're ready, they'll move. But it has to be their decision. Because for them, choosing change is the only way to stay in control of their life. This analytical approach to life is everywhere in a Capricorn's world. They don't leap. They plan. Before making a decision, they look at every angle, every possibility, every potential consequence. People may call them slow or overthinking. But in truth, this is their power. Their caution is their safety net. And their ability to evaluate carefully is the reason they avoid mistakes others fall into. Think about the last time you rushed into something and regretted it. Capricorns rarely experience that. Because they don't act until they're sure. It's not about fear of failure. It's about respect for the process. When they choose something, a job, a partner, a life path, they commit. They build. They stay. So, their analytical nature is a way of protecting the things they invest in. They'd rather take time deciding than waste time regretting. If you're a Capricorn, maybe this explains why people call you cautious, or even cold. But now you know, that's not a weakness. That's wisdom. You see life as a series of moves. Like a chess game. And you play to win, not quickly, but carefully. If you love a Capricorn, remember this. When they hesitate, when they pause, they're not rejecting you. They're protecting their future. Give them time. That's how you earn their trust. But what happens when a Capricorn decides something powerful? Their determination becomes unbreakable. Once they commit to a goal, a plan, or a person, they become unstoppable. This isn't about stubbornness. It's about purpose. They've weighed every possibility. They've analyzed every risk. So now, they move forward with silent strength. Obstacles don't scare them. Doubts don't stop them. They keep going. Quietly. Steadily. Until success becomes inevitable. Imagine someone training for a marathon in silence. No social media posts. No fanfare. Just early mornings, long miles, quiet victories. That's a Capricorn. Their determination isn't loud. It's steady. And that's what makes them impossible to control. You can't pull them away from their path. You can't distract them with shortcuts. They don't follow trends. They follow their inner compass. And once it points to a destination, nothing stands in their way. Now, think about this carefully. Have you ever watched a Capricorn say nothing in a debate, only to act later in a way that proves everyone else wrong? That's their method. They don't waste energy convincing you. They let results speak. Their silence isn't agreement. It's strategy. And when they achieve what they set out to do, they do it on their terms. That's why they're respected. And sometimes, feared. But beneath all that strength, there's a deeper truth. A vulnerability they rarely share. Capricorns aren't afraid of challenges. What they fear is depending on others. Because depending on someone else means losing control. It means trusting someone with a piece of their future. And for a Capricorn, that's terrifying. So they walk alone, not from arrogance, but from caution. From the belief that independence is safety. That solitude is control. But solitude comes with a cost. The quiet strength that keeps them moving also keeps them isolated. While they carry the weight of their goals, their dreams, and their fears, they often carry it alone. And few people notice. Because Capricorns are masters at hiding struggle behind silence. Pain behind patience. Fear behind focus. If you are a Capricorn, maybe these words feel familiar. Maybe you're realizing you've been carrying too much. Too quietly. For too long. And it's okay to want support. It's okay to want someone to stand beside you. Strength doesn't mean walking alone. Sometimes, strength means letting someone help carry the load. If you love a Capricorn, offer your presence, not your solutions. Let them know they're not weak for asking. That needing someone isn't losing control. It's gaining freedom from the weight they've carried silently all their lives. Understanding this about Capricorns changes everything. It's no longer about seeing them as distant or stubborn. It's about seeing them as protectors of their own peace. Builders of their own safe space. And survivors of battles they never told you about. But stay with me, because what comes next will go even deeper. The final 3 insights are the most vulnerable, the most personal, and possibly the most misunderstood aspects of Capricorn's hidden world. And once you hear them, you might never look at a Capricorn the same way again. There's something about ambition that people often misunderstand, especially when it comes to Capricorns. From the outside, it might look like they're simply career-driven, always chasing the next goal. But if you look deeper, you'll see something more complex. For Capricorns, ambition isn't just about success. It's not just about recognition. It's survival. Their personal dreams aren't optional. They're essential. From early in life, many Capricorns learn a harsh truth. If they don't look out for themselves, no one else will. So, they start building their life around personal goals, around silent missions, around dreams they rarely share, but always carry. Their ambition is the anchor that keeps them moving when everything else feels uncertain. And that's why they put their personal mission first. Not because they're selfish. Not because they don't care about others. But because they've learned that sacrificing their dreams for someone else's comfort leads only to regret. So, when a Capricorn chooses their career over a relationship, or their goals over your expectations, understand this. It's not rejection. It's self-preservation. They know that pleasing others often means losing themselves. And they refuse to let that happen. It's not that they don't want to support you. They do. But they can't let go of their path to follow yours. Because to them, purpose is what keeps them alive inside. If you're a Capricorn, maybe you've felt guilty for this before. Maybe people told you you're too focused on work, too distant, too serious. But here's the truth, protecting your dreams isn't wrong. It's necessary. Just remember, life isn't only about goals. Sometimes, connection can be just as healing as achievement. And if you love a Capricorn, let them chase their dreams. Don't take their focus personally. Be the safe space they return to after the battle. Support their purpose without trying to change it. That's how you earn a Capricorn's loyalty and their heart. But now, we arrive at something even deeper. The final piece of the puzzle. Integrity. For Capricorns, integrity isn't a concept. It's their foundation. It's the invisible code that guides every step they take. They don't compromise on their ethics. Not for success. Not for love. Not for comfort. Because when you're a Capricorn, your values are who you are. They live by principles that are often invisible to others, but sacred to themselves. It might be as simple as always telling the truth. Always finishing what they start. Always keeping their promises, even when no one notices. These aren't choices. These are rules they've written for themselves. And once written, they don't break them. That's why manipulation rarely works on them. You can't control someone who answers only to their own moral compass. You can't tempt them with shortcuts. You can't sway them with guilt. They know what's right for them, and they stick to it. This might make them seem inflexible. But inside, their integrity gives them peace. It allows them to trust themselves. In a world full of change and noise, having unshakable principles is their quiet power. It's what allows them to sleep at night. It's what protects their soul. If you're a Capricorn, hold on to that. In a world that tries to pull people in all directions, your ability to stand firm is a gift. But don't let your values isolate you. Remember, connection doesn't have to cost you your integrity. There are people who will respect your code. You just have to let them see it. And if you love a Capricorn, understand this, when they say no, it's not rejection. It's principle. When they walk away, it's not because they don't care. It's because something inside told them this isn't right. Trust their silence. Respect their decisions. Love them without trying to change what's sacred to them. So now, after all we've explored, what does it really mean to understand a Capricorn? It means recognizing that behind their independence is fear of betrayal. Behind their ambition is a heart that's been hurt. Behind their silence is a mind working overtime to protect itself. And behind their strength is someone who simply wants to feel safe. Capricorns don't let people in easily. But when they do, when they trust you, that connection is real. Solid. Lifelong. Because for them, loyalty isn't just a word. It's a bond. And once you earn it, they'll stand beside you quietly, but completely. If you saw yourself in this video, or someone you love, I hope this gave you a little more understanding, a little more patience, and maybe a little more peace. Remember to subscribe if this spoke to your heart. Leave a comment if you're a Capricorn or if you've loved one. I'd love to hear your story. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, please share it. You never know whose heart it might reach. There's so much more about human nature, astrology, and the hidden layers of our personalities that we'll explore together in upcoming videos. So stay connected, because our journey has just begun.